Hey guys, how's it going? Jemiah's World is here. Yes, we are here and back with another video. I'm going to get you guys my reading wrap up for June and July. I did not do a long form version of June or short because I just felt like I didn't read enough. So I just decided to combine it with July. We're going to get right into this stack. I read 3 in June and 3 in July. Before we continue, make sure you guys do all those things. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let's get into it. So we're going to take you back to June. I read 3 books, and the first book I read was a heavy hitter. This book is out right now, and I highly recommend everyone here to go and add this to their cart. Run to the nearest Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, whatever state you're in or country. Run to the nearest bookstore, and buy this. This book is amazing, and it's none other than Charlie Donnelly with Guess Again. This book is so good. I highly recommend going into this book blind. It was an amazing ride. And when I tell you, Charlie Donnelly is an author that just loves to pull back layers and then switches the POV and pull back more layers. And then he starts to like build it up like he's building a house and then jam it all in together in such a fine and like perfectionist way. His writing is impeccable. If you haven't read a Charlie Donnelly book, I highly recommend this book. It is so good. It is absolutely an amazing story. It depends if you check trigger warnings for sure, because some of it is kind of triggering, but a lot of it is like based on psychological elements and disorders and people doing things that you don't even think are certain type of disorders that you probably never heard of. They've actually like tested and clinically tested potentially in real life. I don't want to give you guys too much. I got the pleasure of getting it as an advanced reader copy. I got a questionnaire in the beginning of the story before I started it. Just amazing marketing, amazing writing. Check out Charlie Donnelly, Guess Again. I rated this a 6-star. He is becoming one of my favorite authors. Amazing. After getting into a actual slump from that book, I decided to pick up Frida McFadden with the Tenant. This is a story about a guy who owns a brownstone in New York, and him and his fiance are living there. He is on a high. He works for this corporate office, and he is making the big bucks. He's feeling like the man. One day when he goes into the office, he gets fired for some type of alleged rumor that happened and spread. And he is all the way from up high, feeling like he's the man, all the way down to the low lows. That's when his fiance thinks of the idea of maybe they should rent out the extra room in their brownstone. He's like, I don't want strangers in my house. Da, da, da. They do interviews. They find a woman who fits the bill, but then it starts getting weird once she moves in. So we think. Honestly, if you haven't read a Frida McFadden book, I don't know what planet you're on, because Frida, maybe you don't like thriller, which is fine, but I feel like Frida McFadden is one of the authors that you can get into and read because it's very easy and smooth, and it's going to be engaging as soon as you open the pages. A lot of people think she's formulaic and like she stays on the same track of writing style, and she like really mass produces books in a high rate throughout the year. Like she'll like drop 4 books in a year. Honestly, I feel like Frida McFadden, she's a good starter thriller author if you want to get into thriller, because it's going to be something that's not super complex or like super like, I don't know, hard to read, or on top of that, like very like scary or nerve-wracking. It's going to be something that's like, whoa. And then one thing about her, she does the twist very interesting sometimes. If you've never read her, you probably think the twist is amazing. I've read a couple of her books, and I've read enough thriller books to know like sometimes it's like, okay, that was really obvious. And sometimes she throws me for a loop. The Tenant for me was like that was obviously something I was expecting. But then on top of that, like after a while, the male main character, who is the main POV in this story, which is something that's different for Frida and in the thriller space in general. A lot of the times it's female main character POVs, but he was kind of like, I don't know, the dynamic in the story was kind of like blowing mine. It was kind of like dramatic to me, but I still recommend checking this out. It was very engaging. I finished this book really, really quickly, and I still recommend it even though I did not rate it the highest, because I put Frida on a certain pedestal and some of her books are just better to me. But I still highly recommend checking it out to see her writing style if you've never read her writing style, or to have something to get you out of like a little slump that you're in or something, like based on like the big books you've been reading. If you're reading fantasy and sci-fi, those are like more dense stories. This is a good story to jump into just to like fly through a book really quick. And the third book I read that had me like, at one point it had me like, why am I reading this? Other points it was like, whoa, this happened in the 80s. And then other points it was like, this book is low-key dragging. We have A Gorgeous Excitement. This is by Cynthia Weiner, and this is like an exploration of like the 80s and like kids just living life in New York and doing like misfit things while having money and wealth. On top of that, it draws from like the hipster elements. It has an element of like a weird unaliving that took place as well that just pops into the story. So initially I was just like, oh, I'm in. Cover, bomb, period. I start reading it. I'm like, okay, this story is pretty interesting. I go into it further. I'm getting to know the characters. Some of the characters are just like, eh. Others are like, okay, you're doing this for this reason. They start doing things that are like, it seemed like it's normal back then at that time. And as it progressed for me, I feel like it was very dense. And it started to become like a drag. It could have been because of Guess Again being so impactful at the beginning of the month. I was just like, okay, let me just get through this book. But I feel like the book didn't have to be this long to really deliver the story it was supposed to. And then when it got to the unaliving elements of it, it took like a while. And I feel like they didn't really expound on it enough for me to like really understand like why they were doing that to this character and why it was happening and why they've tied it into all of this to create this story. Overall, I did rate this book like a decent amount because I do recommend it, because this could be something for a person that lived in this time frame and time period and could like reminisce and like bring back memories they probably forgot about when they lived in the 80s, or if they're born in the 80s in certain parts, and they can learn about that type of life that was then compared to now. I do recommend it for people who like to read general fiction, literary fiction style, because it is kind of interesting, but I do recommend checking your trigger warnings. It is a lot of young people in this, and they're doing stuff that some people might not agree with, you know, even though they're expressing themselves freely. Overall, I feel like it was just too dense. It could have been shorter. After June, I was just like, okay, we're gonna go in July. July is summer. We gotta read a romance style summer book. First book I pick up, I had to read a thriller. I had to. I'm like, I need something that's gonna hit me and pack a punch. And one thing about it, this book packed a punch, okay? We have My Sister, the Serial Killer. This story goes without saying. Everyone needs to read this. This book is insane. As soon as you open the book, they go into details of certain elements that's like, let me keep reading. This is nuts. This story, I don't even want to give you guys a synopsis. It's pretty much FMC who is a sociopath. And this could be anyone. She's just like a regular girl. But underliningly, she is doing some sociopathic things. She lives in a family that is always protecting her and making sure they protect the family. And her sister in particular. Make sure you guys go check this book out. It's amazing. It's very short. It's like 200 and like max 240 pages. Chapters are extremely short. I like how the chapters had words instead of like a chapter 1, 2, 3 style, because it gave me like a glimpse of what I could potentially be reading inside the chapter. And then I got completely blown like out for a loop. Completely opposite of what I was thinking. And yeah, like I like the elements of the culture that they expressed in here that I do not know enough about, which was amazing. it was some stuff in here that was like, does that really happen in real life? Like, it makes you really like think and be like, this is a banger. Like, this is something that will get you out of a slump. This is something that will have you talking about it with people. This is a really good book. I highly, highly recommend it. It helped me like get out of that little limbo feeling I was feeling in June. If you don't have this, go pick it up. Get it on Kindle. Is one of those. After reading that amazing story, I decided to get into a book that I got from a publisher, from Melvin House Publishing, and it is called All We Trust by Gregory Galloway. This story is about two brothers. They own a hardware store and a bar, and they live like a comfortable life. But on the other side of the token, they are laundering money for these people. And come to find out, the cryptocurrency wallet that they were holding all this money in gets like infiltrated through this ledger in this flash drive. And they're trying to figure out where the flash drive is. And then one of the mailman characters is thinking his brother is setting him up. And it's just this whole thing of family, loyalty, who to trust. It goes into like a general fiction slash like literary style and a little bit of thriller. I thought it was going to be more thrill, and it was some parts of it that was thrilling, but I feel like it was more of a literary general fiction style to me personally, just reading thrillers so much. Do I recommend this book? I recommend it depending on if you like that type of style of subgenre. Like if you enjoy like the loyalty testing style slash money laundering slash like the tech elements as well. And it was some parts in here that I feel like they like jumped the gun too much and then they pulled it back. Like they didn't really expound enough for me or make me understand why I should be caring about this part or why I should be caring about this character. I feel like this book could have been put together way better than it was, but then going through the author's acknowledgments at the end, it was like, okay, I see why they were writing this at the time, and maybe they just wanted to get this out. So I do recommend reading it, depending on if you like the subgenre, but for me, it was some parts of it that had me questioning things, like still leaving me with stuff up in the air, and overall, it was a pretty decent book, but I feel like it could have been way better because I was expecting a lot more. And finally, I did a buddy read with one of my book besties on Book Talk. We got into the second book in the Wendy series by Liz Tomford. It is called The Right Move. This is Ryan and Indy's story, and I love this book. I love their story. Honestly, it went into amazing details of getting over a heartbreak and finding a new love for something outside of their self, getting out of and breaking walls from the mailman character, just like really embracing what's in front of you. And on top of that, I'm starting to be obsessed with the sports style of romance because it seems way more realistic in this story in particular than a lot of romance that has been getting published in fiction. I'm not really big with like the cringy type of romance because it doesn't feel realistic to me. This story was so fun and so good. And it was a fake dating trope initially, and I've never read a fake dating trope ever. So this is my first, and it was pretty funny. It had like witty elements in it. It had a lot of like emotional elements in it, as well as just a new age and coming into a newfound thing. I love this story. I am so far ranking this a 5-star. I finished it last night. I highly recommend checking out the Wendy series. It is very realistic if you do not read romance. It is very realistic to me because I am not a romance reader at all. It's not my preferred genre, but I'm trying. Okay, I'm trying to get into it a little bit. I enjoyed Ryan and Indy's story. And I like how the author is like switching from different POVs of characters from Mile High, the first book. Like those characters get introduced a little bit, and then each book that goes on, you're gonna know more and more about those characters, those back characters, as they're gonna be jumped into the main character parts in the story. I think that's really cool and creative. So I recommend this series, and I'm at some point is going to read book 3. I don't know when, but that is a lot of people's favorite book out of the series. You'll see and you'll know when I read it. But overall, I enjoyed this book and I think you guys should check out the series. Thank you for staying to the end of this video. Again, make sure you guys stay locked in and connected. Let me know what you enjoyed in the months of June and July in the comments below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.